Hey, welcome to the show. He's Mike. I'm Ryan. It's Eggs. This is Eggs. This is Eggs.
What's Eggs?
Eggs is a podcast about all things creative, regardless of what that means to you. From the creativity involved in launching a business, building a brand, crafting an entertainment career, or whatever, we'll talk about the process of growing your eggs from start to finish.
What's up?
Oh, you know, living the dream as we do. Another week, back at it again, episode 4. Nobody thought we'd make it, but here we are.
Yeah, I know. We're in for the long haul. We got 4 whole episodes done.
Hey, it's 4 more than we had 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, no joke, right?
Sweet. So anyway, how was your week, Mike?
It was a good one. Well, I guess good can be...
It's relative.
Yeah. So after we recorded last Tuesday, I went home and had full intention to start working on the website and get that knocked out right away and get home to a water leak in the basement. So that turned into a 3-day ordeal. And
yuck. Yeah, I saw a couple of your pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, well, life happens, so you just kind of deal with it and roll on. So if you went to the website and it was all laid out funky, that's why. And we're finally getting it done.
Yeah, we're working on it, but we haven't gotten around to like putting up a landing page or something. You can just see our awful progress right now.
Yeah, it's like you can if you check in daily, you'll see like the steps of he did this today, he did that today. But
it's actually maybe better to just avoid it. We'll talk about it another
Never
time.
mind, you didn't hear that. What website?
Yeah, exactly. So, that sucks. So yeah, that's a fun week. Did you have gigs this week?
Yeah, I did. Actually, it was a lot of fun. I haven't been at Center Street, my local gig in Pocatello, for a few weeks. And so I spent Thursday kind of prepping for music and getting everything ready. And I found a lot of really cool new edits and things to use. And it made this weekend just really fun, just being able to play around with some new stuff.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, we also had kind of an exciting weekend. My nieces were playing softball tournament up in Twin Falls, Idaho.
I was wondering why you were there. I saw some pictures.
So we drove up there to spend the weekend with the family. It was also my wife's birthday, so it was a good opportunity to get together with family. So we went up, camped up there, and so that was nice. Unfortunately, we left sunny Salt Lake City, which was, in the mid-90s and awesome. And we got up to Twin Falls, and it was cold and rainy and brutal.
Dude, I don't know what the deal is, but this morning I went through a freaking typhoon coming here.
Yeah,
there was
insane.
so much rain. I thought I was back in Seattle, but worse.
Well, yeah, no, you look up on the mountains right now. It's snowing right now, which is crazy. It's June.
Yeah, that's...
And not like June 1st either. We're like into June.
Midsummer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's nuts.
Welcome to Utah.
Yeah, no joke.
Come
so anyway,
visit.
we left sunny Utah, 95 degrees last week, and got up to Twin Falls. Well, we realized when we left, it was sunny and nice. So we threw our bags together. We took off. We headed up there. We didn't take jackets. We didn't take pants.
So you're hating life.
Sweatshirts. We didn't take anything because, it's summer. It's nice. It must be like this everywhere.
Nope.
So, so we got up to Twin Falls, and basically we had to make a run to the sporting goods store. We had to buy sweatshirts. We had to buy pants. We had to buy
$300 later.
Yeah, luckily I had a gift card and a sweet coupon. so it saved our butt a little bit. But yeah, everybody got new stuff for the weekend, so that was kind of fun. Cool. Well, so the subject this week we wanted to get into is one that's sort of, probably beaten to death in a lot of capacities, in different books and different, everybody's kind of got an opinion on the matter. But what we want to talk about is goal setting. It's something that I'm not particularly good at. However, Mike has a lot of examples of setting and achieving. Although I think maybe I can eke out 1 or 2 of these also. But we think, the process of setting a goal is really important in terms of trying to grow, in your case, this little egg from, egg to chicken or whatever we decided comes out of the egg.
Yeah, we're not going to refer to it as an omelet anymore.
Yeah, no, this time it's not an omelet. It's something that comes out wildly successful.
Yeah.
So anyway, so one of the things we wanted to get into was goals. And I mean, it's a broad subject, and there are 100 different approaches to it. Mike and I both have sort of opinions on the matter, but we wanted to go through a few different suggestions or a few different ways of setting a successful goal, something that you can actually achieve and get done. Because,
I have a tendency to set huge unrealistic goals and then realize that they're huge and unrealistic until after I've told a bunch of people about it, and then waste 4 years of my life trying to get them done.
Well, I think that's super common, especially if you sit and think about the fact. Well, I mean, like for me personally, I mean, I don't know how long that new Lamborghini has been on my list, but we're
getting there.
I mean, we're 10 models later, So
well, at least you'll get a new version.
I mean, I still want a Lamborghini. It's just it's a much newer Lamborghini.
You just got to get like an 84 beat up.
Yeah, I could just about get myself an 85 Countach or something. No, unfortunately, those are probably more valuable than any of them at this
they're
point.
going up in value
items.
now. Yeah,
they're ironic collector's items for hipsters. But anyway, one of these days I'll get that Lamborghini. But to your point, that's a large unrealistic goal if I have no means of getting to it. So it's not just I want a Lamborghini, but it's okay. You want a Lamborghini, so how do you get to that?
So I guess the first step is really kind of figuring out what you want to accomplish and believing that you can accomplish that goal. Having a realistic, game plan is in order to be able to get to where you want to go. So figure out what you want to do and believe that you can do it, and have faith in yourself to be able to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously belief is important, but one of the keys that you just mentioned is belief in yourself.
Yeah.
It's one thing to sort of believe in that something can be done, in this world it could be done. But a lot of people lack the confidence necessary to really believe in themselves and their ability to actually achieve something. So it's extra important that, not only do you have a belief in the goal you're trying to set, but you actually believe that you are capable of delivering on that goal.
Yeah. I don't know what would be a good example of something like that.
Well, I mean, take for example this podcast, right? I mean, we've been kicking the idea around for some time. We didn't execute, in any kind of real fast order, but we, knew that with our combined skill sets, our knowledge of equipment, our knowledge of, different things, that we were going to be capable of doing this.
Yeah, we knew that we had everything that we needed to do the podcast. It was just a matter of sitting down and actually doing it.
Right, which is oftentimes the hardest part.
Yeah, taking that first step.
So, but we were lucky because, we had that belief. We knew that we were capable of doing it, and we had that belief in ourselves that, of course we could, muster a few minutes and put one of these things together. So just a matter of getting it done.
Yep.
One of the other more important things, and it's sort of related to this belief, is actually visualizing what it is that you're trying to achieve. So, think with that end goal in mind. In my case, it was a Lamborghini. But for somebody else, maybe it's opening a bakery or an ice cream shop or, starting a new clothing company or whatever it is. But you actually do need to sit down and visualize what this thing is.
Well, and not even necessarily, a new Lamborghini or, a business or something in your day-to-day life. Like if you, I don't know, about a month ago, I decided, hey, I'm going to put a rock wall in the backyard. And I just sat down and kind of like, okay, how do I want to do this? What do I got to do it? And a month later, I had it done. And it's just a matter of, figuring out what you want to do, figuring out how to do it, and figuring out how to finish it. Is pretty much what most goals come down to. And then, baby steps. Get from A to B, do what you need to do in the first step, do what you need to do in the second step, and all of a sudden you have a finished product.
Well, yeah, and in the creative field, for example, visualizing what you want may translate to a sketch. And that sort of leads into our next idea, too, this idea of getting your concept on paper, actually putting it down. And, so like, for example, with an advertisement or a new logo design, we might sit down and actually visualize what it is we're trying to put together. We'll think about it, we'll concept, we'll make little notes, but then we'll sit down and we'll actually sketch out the plan. So in the case of your rock wall, you could have actually drawn out your wall. Where's it going to go? Sort of do an aerial photo or aerial sketch or something. How's this wall going to fit?
Well, and like, when you did my logo, I'm sitting there watching you, and all of a sudden, on this blank piece of paper, this badass logo just shows up, and then, of course we have to refine it and do the finer details, pull it into Illustrator and vectorize it and do all that other stuff. But
right, but it began with that visualization.
It began with a sketch on a piece of paper,
Yeah, and so that sketch, well, in the creative field, it's a sketch. In the DJ field, it might be a song that you love, or a combination or a mix you
Lots
like.
of times, like if I'm making a mashup or something like that, I'll be listening to something on the radio, or I'll even be in like a grocery store and I hear something in the background. I'm like, ooh, that's a good song. And then I start thinking about it. Oh, I could do this with that. I could do this with that. And the thing with me is like, if I don't take a note or write it down, I'll forget about that concept. So sometimes if I'm mixing in a live environment and something works really good, I'll actually take a picture of my laptop screen of those two songs to remind me that those work good together. Do something with it.
Well, and that's sort of the digital version of getting this idea down on paper.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I really like about this particular step in the process too is it takes it from being theoretical to real.
Yeah.
There's a transition that happens there where you actually become a creator of something, a creator of an idea or a business or a logo or whatever it is. And so I think that this step is really critical in terms of moving on and actually achieving your goals. Because you have made that step where just by writing it down, simply taking the notes or snapping a photo of your laptop, you've put that on paper, you've actually created something.
Yep. Me, lots of times I'll, like I said earlier, I'll open my mouth and like commit to doing it. And then I realize real quick that, oh crap, I just, like once I vocalize it, I feel like I have to do it, and it's
well, that's what makes you reliable though.
I guess.
So, but it's true. I mean, I've shot my mouth off more than 100 times and designed projects just because I said I would do it.
Yep.
And I don't want to now be the flake.
I don't want to be that guy, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I wish I would have just,
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. So, the next sort of key component to successful goal setting is this idea of actually having a purpose, knowing your purpose and what it is that you want to achieve and what it is that's driving you to do that. So in the case of, maybe opening a bakery or something like that, maybe you have some of mom's old recipes and it's a legacy to mom to do this, or, she's passed and these recipes have come down through a couple generations. And now that's something you want to do as a memory to your mother or because of the passion she instilled in you for baking or whatever. But that is your purpose. That's your drive, so you're hoping to develop this goal, or you're trying to build this project, but it's being driven by something. Now granted, not every project is as big as opening a bakery or even creating a logo. This might be something small, but maybe it's like maybe a fitness goal. So it's, today
I want to lose 10 pounds in a week,
Yeah. So to go through the process, you believe you are capable of doing that, that I am capable of losing weight. I visualize what I want to look like, in my Speedo with my awesome tan, on the beach.
Do I have to visualize this too?
No, it's better if you don't visualize it. No, that's for my mind only. And then I write down on paper or I print out a schedule, lose 5 pounds a week or 2 pounds a week, every week, and put that on paper. That's my goal. And the purpose, it can be many things. It can be that you are doing it for health benefits. You can be doing it for vanity. You just want to look better in your tidy whities. It could be, any number of reasons, but whatever that is your drive. So whether it's weight loss, logo development, building a new company, it doesn't much matter. You just need to understand what your purpose is.
Yeah. So an example for me is when I was in college, I was learning how to use Pro Tools, and it was, it's a daunting piece of software, and there's a lot of elements that, you have to learn to be able to do everything that, an audio engineer or someone in that field has to be able to do. And so what I did as a project to learn and figure out this software was I created a mix called High Fidelity. And this is essentially, it's a mashup mix that's an hour long that's samples a ton of music from start to finish, and the whole goal or the whole purpose of creating this mix was to learn Pro Tools. And by doing this, I learned a lot of what not to do and learned the software at the same time. And it took me a long time to build it. A project like that, that took me about 8 months. And while I was in school, I was able to, I learned this week. I can use this in the mix. I can do this. And it turned out to be a really cool, when it was all said and done, it turned out really neat. But the whole purpose of doing that was to learn Pro Tools.
Yeah, well, and I can completely relate to that. A lot of the software that I learned early on, the Photoshops, the InDesigns, the Illustrators, I went to college, but I had been learning that stuff on my own long before that. And so, it was important for me to actually sit down and learn those things on my own in order to achieve this end of being a good designer or whatever it is that I was trying to accomplish at the time.
Yep.
So at the time, I was making a lot of concert posters for friends and things, and so it became increasingly important to become skilled at Photoshop and other things.
Have you noticed that as you get further along in your career, or I used to just release anything. I would spend, I would mess around on a mixer for an hour, and whatever came out I'd put out. But now, having I've gained a little notoriety. I wouldn't say that I'm big in any way, shape, or form, but now that I've kind of got to this level that I'm at right now, I'm more hesitant to release something because
you've started to develop a reputation now. So if you put out garbage, then that reflects on you.
Yeah.
So obviously you're not looking to put out anything rotten.
Well, and I never thought of it that way before. I never thought, people might hear this. Whereas now I'm very critical of everything I do.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's a balance there too. Because one book, I don't know if you've read it, I think you said you did, that Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art.
Yeah.
One of the things that he really talks about in there is this battle against resistance. And for me, this constant pursuit of perfection can serve as a little bit of a roadblock, to actually getting something accomplished.
It kind of cripples you.
Well, yeah, because, you're trying to achieve perfection before you publish that next thing or whatever it is. And I think you can balance that out a little bit, especially in your early years. Go ahead, put out kind of a crappy logo. I go back and I look at my old work and I'm just repulsed all the time.
Yeah.
And, and I'm certainly not the be all end all now, but I've grown a lot in the last few years.
I've actually gone through and I'll listen to my mixes 2 or 3 times, a year, just to listen to it and be like, oh, that's garbage now. And I've actually deleted a bunch of them just because I'm so self-critical. And it's I've noticed there's been a few mixes that I've put together that I haven't released that I probably should have, but I'm just so critical that I just don't do it. And I took a step back about, I probably after I read that book, but a lot of the stuff I've done lately, I haven't gone through and edited a bunch of stuff and made it perfect. I kind of left it raw because I like the fact that, this is what it actually, if you go in and fix everything post studio, that's not really a live mix. That's not really, what you're going to see when you go to a show. But I was getting to that point, the first 2 or 3 anything goes mixes were 100%. I'll chop this up, fix it, move it back, and perfect each transition or each segue. And that's not real. That's not, it's I've kind of I don't know. It's kind of like I want it to be perfect, but I don't want it to be perfect. You know what I mean?
Well, like I say, I think it's a balance because with me, of course, I've got to develop some reputation also. I'm known for different things. And so it's important that the work I put out is good and of high quality and things like that, especially at this stage, whether I'm looking for new clients or whatever, it's important that everything I put out there represents me in the best possible light. But I also think that you do have to be wary or watch for those instances where you're using that as an excuse to not produce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and actually this segues really great into sort of the next subject in sort of setting a successful goal, and that's this idea of commitment. Like we were talking about, you need to actually commit to this goal. You need to, whether, your weight loss thing, if it's weight loss that you're trying to achieve, you've got to go for it. You've got to change your diet. You've got to change the way you're exercising. You've got to do all these different things. Otherwise, it can't happen. So, if you don't make that commitment, there's no moving forward.
Yeah, it's actually, so I had a friend a few years ago that we were both a little overweight. And we kind of both together decided to go on a diet and try and get in shape. And, I was like, okay, let's do this. I really didn't want a diet. I didn't really care at the time. I enjoy food and, so be it. But he wanted to lose weight. So we decided we're going to do this, and I committed. And about 2 weeks into it, he didn't really want to do it anymore, and I had committed, so I was like, screw this, I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Well, that's the worst part, when your accountability buddy bails on you.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this regardless, and I'm really appreciative that he committed me to doing it, and then I stuck to it. I was like, okay, I'll show you that it can be done, and then I did it, and I lost, I was 40 pounds, 45 pounds,
nice.
Probably.
Congrats. I need to do that.
Well, it's harder said than
I'm trying.
Easier said than done.
2 days into doing well.
Oh, good.
So, but I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's one little thing in there that you mentioned, and I think that it's actually a really important point. It goes back to our first idea, this idea of belief or believing in yourself. Basically, when your friend, your accountability buddy, bailed on you, you were able to find it in yourself to continue moving forward. And what makes that important is that goal really is for you. It's good that your buddy wanted to do it too, but for your own health, your own lifestyle, your own whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whatever your purpose was, you believed enough in yourself to proceed even when you lost your accountability buddy.
Yeah, and the cool
I should
part
stop
is,
saying accountability buddy.
I don't know.
I mean, it was funny the first or second time, but it's too much.
Since then, he's actually gone and lost a lot of weight. So he's kind of,
Well, it's good. So he circled around.
And, it was really good for me because, I was able to, you can feel a difference from eating garbage to, eating healthy. And then it's really a lifestyle change more than anything.
Yeah, like one of the things I really envy about you is you're pretty good about cooking versus eating out.
That's one thing that I've developed over the last few years since that is because when you eat out, it's very hard to find healthy food.
Well, that's the thing. Even a salad at a restaurant, is going to have sugar in the dressing, sugar in the whatever. It's going to have little crunchy, carby things on every salad.
And you gotta, it's really hard to eat healthy when you're going out to eat every day.
It's true. And actually, that's one of my biggest struggles with trying to lose some weight and trying to tighten up a little bit is that. Because of my schedule, especially right now, I mean, we're just crazy busy.
To sit down and make a meal, you're looking at least 2-3 hours a time because
and that's what's funny is because, I mean, really, going to a restaurant doesn't save you that much time. It feels like it does because you're sitting down and somebody's cooking for you. But the reality of the situation is, it still takes that hour and a half to sit down.
Well, you got to drive there, you got to order, you got to, so you're about wasting this, or not wasting, but it takes
but it's
about
arguably about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Now granted, I guess when you factor in grocery shopping and everything else, maybe it takes more time to cook. But
the one thing that's neat about cooking, though, is what's going into your food and you're developing a skill in the process. And so for me, I find myself, watching the cooking channel now because, I'm looking for cool new recipes and things to do. But part of that all came because, now I have to start eating healthy, but I can't do it by going out. So what can I make to eat healthy? And
it's difficult. Well, I mean, maybe down the road, we need to,
got eggs on the brain.
Do some kind of fitness challenge or some kind of weight loss something or, anything. I mean, I imagine being sort of a podcast that's centered around creativity and people like us, there's probably quite a few of us that have really busy schedules, do a lot of work, eat out a lot, get fed at work, because we're working a lot of hours or whatever it is. And, all those habits, especially for those of us that sit in front of a computer 8 to 10 hours a day or more, it is really difficult to maintain a healthy lifestyle. There's a lot of people who have a really hard time with this work-life balance.
Well, I've heard, I'll probably slaughter the quote or whatever, but I've heard
that's what we do around here.
Yeah. Isn't sitting the new, what's it called? Sitting is equated to the new, I can't even think of it, but it's,
basically sitting,
really bad for you is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I don't know if this is it, but this is the, metaphor I'll make. Sitting is like smoking. people don't seem to smoke as much now as they used to, and obviously the effects are different on you, all that kind of stuff. But what the point is, it's equally as unhealthy.
Yeah.
Sitting down and being stagnant all day, is bad for your arteries, bad for blood, bad for everything. It's not a good thing. And for a lot of us that work in front of a computer, this is how we spend our days.
Yeah, and they've got these new tables that you can lift up and stand. And
I've seen a lot of those popping up around the agency, where we've got the stand up type desks. I've even seen one that was like a treadmill type where you can walk in.
I don't know. I think I would.
I don't think I could be
that.
super effective. I could maybe read email that way, but I'd have a hard time working on the Wacom tablet or something while I walk.
Not going to happen.
I like the idea though.
Yeah.
So
commit.
Yeah, committing to what you're trying to do is the point, though. I mean, it's obviously not going to work if you can't commit. So in that same vein, however, once you've committed, it's important to stay focused. So the next piece of this is actually developing a focus for what it is you're working for. And I think, and Mike, you can tell me yes or no, or you can tiptoe around it or whatever, but I think this idea of staying focused is super, there's a really great example of it in your life with this project you're working on right now, because it's been a killer. It's been going on forever. It's, something that you've managed to circle back around to and been working on constantly. You've rebuilt your entire life around it.
I really have.
And so I think, in terms of sharing the idea of staying focused, I think it would be good to talk about that a little bit if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah. I won't go into details on the project, but I'll talk vaguely. So about 2 years ago, I committed to building a website for a friend, and we had another developer involved with it, and it turned into this huge kind of okay, so his project is getting done, but at the same time, I've had an idea for something that I wanted to do for a long time. But the developer that is building his project has been working on his project, so mine's been kind of sitting in the back burner for longer than it should.
Better part of a couple of years.
Yeah, it was initially slated to be 3 months, and 3 months has turned into 2.5 years. So in that time frame, I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, like, what the heck, I want my thing to take off, but I can't. I don't really know enough about web design or anything like that to be able to do it. So while I was waiting, I just kind of started teaching myself. And I went and jumped on Lynda and Treehouse and a few other of these websites that you can learn. And I started by teaching myself basic HTML, and then from there a little bit of CSS, and then I figured out what Bootstrap was, and then I figured out, okay, well, I've got this, I can do this, and then essentially it's really, figure out one thing, figure out the next thing, and all of a sudden now I can do all this web work that 2 years ago I knew nothing about. The extent of what I knew for websites 2 years ago was basic WordPress. It's find a template, customize it, and there I got a website. But now, I'm in the process of teaching myself JavaScript because there's a few forms that I'm creating that I want some interactivity in, and I need to hide and show some fields, and JavaScript's how you do that. And before, it was such a broad topic. You got, all these different things. You got jQuery, JavaScript, Bootstrap, HTML, CSS, all these different things that, MySQL databases, where do you host this? How does this work? Overwhelming amounts of information that I knew nothing about, but have figured out over the last few years. And the only reason I had to figure it out is because the guy that I was relying on to do it for me is tied up elsewhere. And so instead of just sitting there and waiting for it, I went ahead and jumped on and did it myself.
Yeah, and I think this touches on a lot of different topics and this idea of setting goals. But I like this story for the purpose of staying focused, because this is something that has really been on your radar and you've been really working towards.
I've been talking about my site for probably 5 or 6 years now. I've owned the domain for a long time, and I know what I want the site to do, but I know that it's not as simple as finding a template and doing it. It's something that really it has to be built from the ground up. So that means creating all the form fields, creating everything, all the reports, everything that this site is going to be capable of doing. It's being built out of thin air. It's like I have to think what I need, figure out how to do it, and go to that next step and accomplish it.
Yeah.
So, rather than waiting on that other guy to do it for me, I was proactive, figured out how to design it at least. So I went and figured out how to build the front end, and I hired 2 other guys to do the back end for me, so that I think the learning curve to figure out PHP and do securely and be up to date on all that stuff, I'd be another 3 or 4 years out before I'd be able to do
that's
that.
the thing. It's sometimes better to just hire somebody to do it rather than try and know how to do everything.
Well, the thing is, though, is now I know that I can learn, because this was such a daunting task that it was a pipe dream in my opinion. And the fact that I've gone as far as I have and, taught myself, it pretty much opened my eyes to the fact that I'm not an idiot, Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't have the best grades in high school. I didn't have, the drive. I was a DJ. I was about hanging out, having fun, playing music, and getting paid for it. And my viewpoint has changed over the last 3 or 4 years that I can actually sit back and be like, I'm not completely useless. I can actually, and it's good too, because now, I was talking about having an out for the DJing career in the last episode, and that I don't really necessarily want to get out, but I felt like I needed to. Now I actually feel like I have something that if I needed to get out or wanted to pick up some extra money with a day job, I could go into developing or just in the web world in general and make some money with it,
Right. Well, yeah. So anyway, the moral of the story is that, for this phase of setting a quality goal or a goal that's actually achievable, this focus and this is really an important factor. And, it's one thing, and it's funny because this is sort of being broken into minutia. I mean, staying focused is a piece of committing, is a piece of your purpose. Is it all goes into one. This is basically a long form version of how to set a good goal. But I think it's important to call out each of those steps and sort of see how they play with one another.
Yeah.
Because your hyper focus on this is also part of your commitment to this project.
Well, and it's funny because I've moved, I've relocated, so I could.
You basically redesigned your life so that you could get this thing done.
Yeah, I've had a few job offers that I've turned down because I knew that this mattered to me, to where I knew if I took a day job, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, and for the entrepreneurs out there, I know that that's a real key thing, and it's hard sometimes to identify, that moment or that thing that, this thing that I want to do or that I want to accomplish is more important than that job, that steady income, that whatever.
It's really hard to look at benefits and a salary and a decent lifestyle versus barely getting by just to be able to
living in a van down by the river.
Literally.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but it is also true that you need to be introspective and look at yourself and decide where you're going to draw satisfaction from.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cliche old adage, but the idea that if you enjoy what you're doing for work, you'll never work a day in your life. And It's totally true. I mean, I love the work that I do. I love that we sit down and do this podcast. I love going to work in the morning. It's not a chore for me.
Uh-huh. It's very important to kind of set your priorities and live the life that you want to lead. And then, live life around that.
Yeah. Now, granted, I mean, it takes work, but if it's important to you, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
So to sort of put a bow on that whole section, I think I've officially said put a bow on it in
every
all
episode.
Of the episodes.
We're gonna.
I mean, there's more to come. I'm just putting a bow. Okay, to tie a
wrap
rope
things
around.
up.
No, because we've still got more to cover. But
okay.
To get these last
to
few
segue
subjects,
to the next section.
Yeah, But what the point I want to make is that the last couple of points that we've hit on, this idea of purpose and committing to your idea and staying focused, all sort of are part of the next piece, which is forming a plan of action. It's not enough to just say, I want a Lamborghini, walk on, move on with your life. I'm fully committed to the idea of having a Lamborghini. But if I don't have a means to get there, then what good does that goal do?
Yeah.
It's super important that, you actually develop a step-by-step journey. And you sort of alluded to this a little bit at the very beginning, at the top of the show, when you started talking about baby steps and doing, sort of breaking your big job.
Think about what about
jobs.
Bob? Baby steps. No,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not to be too on the nose, but the rock wall you mentioned earlier is a metaphor for this. It's one brick at a time, it's one stone at a time, it's one step at a time.
Well, back to the website project. I mean, this is my third draft of this site. The first draft looked horrible, but essentially it was a basic HTML splash page because I didn't know frameworks and how to mock something up. I just kind of did it from scratch. And, then I did it again. And then now I'm actually working on the final version of it. But, the first step was to kind of get a draft. The second step was kind of, honing in on it a little better. And the third step is to actually do it.
Yeah. So depending on what it is you're trying to do, the plan of action can vary. If you're opening a barbershop, it might be do some research on other barbershops.
Learn how to cut some hair.
Learning how to cut a hair might be pretty key. But find a location, get whatever permitting's necessary. You're going to have this checklist of things you need to do, but breaking that big task of opening a barbershop into 100 little tasks makes it infinitely more achievable. And you can actually work through those little steps and feel a little bit of a sense of accomplishment each time you get something.
That sense of accomplishment is like my whole driving factor. I love creating something out of nothing. Just knowing that, like when we promoted shows down in Phoenix, like that show would have never existed if I didn't take the initiative to contact the band and to contact the venue and to do this. And when you're there watching this band perform and know that you're the reason why they're there and why all these people are here to see this show, even though I'm not the one on stage, I get the same gratification out of it, and,
sure.
And financially it's great because I made a little money, but at the same time, it's like just the fact that this exists because of something, the steps that I took to make it happen. It's euphoric. I love it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, that's, I think, one of the things that I like most about the work that I do, whether it's a logo design or developing a new brand strategy for a client, whatever it is, we're creating something from nothing. We're figuring out, well, not always nothing. Sometimes we have research and other things. But, if we're going to sit down and do a logo, then, we begin with baby steps. You start with your sketch and then you go through a review process and then, post critique, you take it into the computer, develop some stuff in the computer, go for another round of proofing, but it was sort of born from nothing.
Yep.
And at the end, we have our little baby, whatever it is that, goes out and becomes, a mark that represents some company, somebody else's hopes and dreams. So for me, it's super satisfying, whether it's something like a brand identity or a website or whatever.
I get happy for you when I'm driving down the freeway and I see a billboard. Oh, Ryan did that. It's like it I don't know. It's
yeah,
cool,
we're not doing a lot of outdoor right now, so sorry to break your little heart.
Well, there's still a few, but I just
there's still a few.
Back in the day when like when I did a show and I had a billboard, I went and I stopped. I took a picture of it. It's like, oh, that's so rad. Like just little things I get off on, I guess.
No, it sort of brings out the little kid in you, when you get to see your work published somewhere. And I'm sure that, a lot of experienced creatives are probably a little jaded to this and, it's one more magazine ad, it's one more radio spot, but at the same time, there's a little bit of satisfaction that can be drawn from it, especially if you've done a good job and you're proud of the work.
Well, I don't know, a few months ago, we went to see, Naughty by Nature, and Victor opened up for him.
Yeah.
And when I walked in, Vic was playing one of my edits, and just something like that is just, it's like, this guy I've looked up to for so long, to hear him playing something that I made is just, it feels
it's cool.
good.
Well, it's redeeming. It makes the effort that you put into something worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, for me, it's very satisfying, and for me, it's a motivator. Maybe not for everyone, but for me, it is. One of the key factors to sort of keeping your plan on track is that this concept of there's no idea like the present. Don't put off today what can be done today. And get right into it. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was telling me that basically, if you, from the time you make a decision, or have a thought about something, go to the gym, eat that hoagie, whatever it is, if you don't make up your mind and act within about 5 seconds, the odds of you doing it are significantly lower.
Yep.
And the moral of that story is that, you can't put off things. I mean, if you do, then you're not working towards your list, you're not driving forward on this goal, and not acting in the moment can really prohibit or keep your goal from being as successful as you want it to be.
Well, even this podcast is a great, I hate to keep referencing this podcast as, something that we keep bringing up, but
no, I think it's fair.
We sat down in a pool room 4 weeks ago, and sat down and just did it because we've been talking about it, and finally we're like, screw it, let's do it. And we didn't have anything ready. We didn't have a website. We didn't have a logo. We didn't have any of it, but we decided, you know what, today's the day. Let's not wait and put off the fact that, I don't have all the professional equipment. I don't have, this or that. We just kind of like, okay, we're here. Let's do it. And we did it. And now we're 4 episodes in, and we've kind of pulled all our pieces together. We've got a logo. We're almost done with the website. Just take that first step. Just go do it.
Yeah,
if you have the thought, you want to do something, put a game plan together and figure it out.
Yeah, and not to make this a full-on pitch for Pressfield's book, again, the War of Art, but that concept of resistance, is in this step too. This idea of acting in the moment is something that by not doing, you're sort of falling victim to this resistance that he talks about in the book. I've always sort of called these things, or this power, this energy, I've always referred to them as roadblocks. But in his mind, or the way he talks about them in the War of Art, is that it's resistance. And basically everything we do, we're battling resistance. So in order to go to the gym in the morning, you have to overcome, the energy trying to push you and keep you into bed.
Well, and quite literally, you're at the gym lifting weights to make you stronger.
Yeah, you're literally fighting resistance.
Yeah, and so by fighting that resistance or getting over those roadblocks, I didn't know HTML when I started. Now I know HTML. Now I know Bootstrap. Now I know.
But
all
if
these
you had gone, HTML is so hard, I can't do that. Then that would have been the resistance winning.
And I would still be waiting for someone else to do it for me.
Yeah.
And now I've got, I've made headway, and the site's come along, and
Well, and that, again, is why it's important to act in this moment. There was a moment today, for example, when it came to recording this podcast. I have a lot on my plate this week. There's been some issues with one of our clients where we've had to overcome some personnel issues and some other things that have caused a few others to have to work late nights and everything else to accommodate.
Well, he was texting me. I was texting him yesterday like, hey, what do you think of this? And no reply. And I'm sitting there going, dude. Finally, at 7:30 at night, he's like, I just barely got done with this. Sorry.
Yeah.
And
that was before I rolled back into the revisions.
And then came back and worked until probably, 1 last night? Yeah.
So. And so, but, so there was a moment there where I thought, well, I'll just text Mike. We'll put this off. Maybe we can record on Wednesday and rush it and get it turned around in time for a Thursday drop. But, then I sort of was able to overcome that little bit of resistance and push through it and say, you know what, I'm tired, I'm busy, but so is Mike. Everybody's busy. We've got to sit down and we've got to get this done, because if we start making excuses now to not record the show,
in
or
6
to
weeks,
not go to work,
it'll be a lot easier to do it the next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so that, I think, for me is the importance of sort of just acting in the moment, doing what you need to do. If you're trying to open that restaurant, you can always be online doing research. If you're trying to find out about permits or licenses you might need to do a certain job or whatever, then, you can be doing something towards that end at any time.
So on that note, did I ever tell you about the dance I was trying to do up in Everett?
I don't think so.
When I first moved to Seattle, from Arizona, I was trying to continue promoting and doing an event. And I got all my ducks in a row. I went and I went to the fire department to clear the venue. I hired off-duty police officers. I had hired a DJ from the radio station. That's actually how I met Jeff, DJ Face.
Oh, nice.
Was I hired him to do this event. And the day before the event was supposed to happen, I get a call from the prosecuting attorney from the city of Everett saying if I have this event, I'll be charged with a misdemeanor because I didn't have a youth dance ordinance, some sort of a permit that the city of Everett themselves have in place that I knew nothing about, whatever. But essentially, it pretty much, I had to cancel everything the day before, pay all the fees, pay all the stuff for a $15 permit.
Yuck.
But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, that thing should have been on your list.
Well, I didn't know about it.
But how do you know?
So.
But yeah, no, those sorts of things can happen, and you could either allow that to be the roadblock that stops you from promoting future events, or you can take it in stride, take your lump, and move on to the next thing. Yep. That one was your omelet, I guess.
That was an omelet.
So
anyway, very, very expensive omelet.
Moving on, and this is a little piece of goal setting that I think is important. You're not always going to have it, though, from an outside source, and sometimes you have to find it from within. This concept of accountability. Part of being successful in your goals, and I'm sure you're sensing the theme here that all these things sort of work together. We're breaking it into a bunch of steps, but really this is all one big idea. This idea of being accountable could be to yourself. In your case, it could be to your accountability buddy that bailed on you when it came to the weight loss challenge. But to have somebody or something or some, I don't know, interstellar being to be accountable to, can really help move a goal along. In the case of me, I have client work all the time. I'm accountable to that client. I'm accountable to their print vendor. I'm accountable to whomever. And in those ways, I'm held to making sure that these little goals, this project I'm working on or whatever, gets done on time and of good quality and all these things, because I have all these stakeholders to please along the way. So that keeps me accountable. In the case of the weight loss example we used earlier, you had a friend that, in theory, had it worked out correctly. You were going to go to the gym together. You would, be buying food together. You would be preparing food together, whatever it was. But all those things would keep you accountable.
Yeah, for me, I kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the episode. If I verbalize something, that's my accountability for me. It's like me saying to myself, if I say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. And then no matter what it takes, I try and make it happen. And sometimes it doesn't follow, it doesn't come to fruition. But for the most part, if I say I'm going to do something, I try and make it happen. And that's just kind of been how I've operated for most of my life. And it's gotten me in trouble more than not. But, there's a lot of stuff that's come out because of that, because I, spouted my mouth off, and then I said I could do it. Then I realized I have to do it, and I did it. And
sure, well, and in those cases, you're making yourself accountable to the person you said that to.
Yep.
And so, but it's the same idea. It's the same driving force. It's basically looking for some extra force or extra push, either from within or from outside, to drive you to pursue these goals or get these goals done.
Sometimes it's even just I'll send an email to someone or send an email to myself, because like getting it on paper and thinking through the process of like, this is what I want to do, and actually writing it down and getting it to someone else is kind of like my way of saying to the world, I'm going to do this. Let's do it.
Well, and I mean, one thing you all should know about me and Mike is that we're notorious idea people.
Yeah.
We constantly are scheming about the next thing, the latest, greatest, wouldn't it be cool if we did this or that? Granted, some percentage of these things actually do get accomplished, but I think that's why I'm particularly proud of this podcast. I mean, we're only 4 episodes deep. I mean, it's not like we've changed the world just yet, but I take a little bit of satisfaction in the fact that we said we were going to do it, we followed through and did it, and now we're keeping each other accountable.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest resistance for doing this podcast is I don't like being I like kind of being behind the scenes, like even when I'm DJing and stuff, I'm in the booth, but I'm not on the mic. I'm not having, I'm not the outgoing person. To you, I am, because, we've had this relationship and everything, but I'm kind of like a social butterfly,
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, yeah, and I'm sort of by nature the same way. I would, the last thing I want to do is hear my voice on the radio. So I'm sorry, everyone. But for me, one of my big goals professionally this year was I felt like our company, R2 Media Group, needed to be responsible for producing more content. Whether that's in the form of a blog or email marketing or white papers or this podcast, the goal for me was for us to actually create some more content, and sitting down and capturing these conversations that Mike and I were going to have probably anyway has been not only a little bit cathartic to actually work through some of these things and talk about it, but it's also been, for me, motivating. This gives me something to look forward to each week that's outside of my just normal work day. This gives me a place to go vent, and all those things, plus making sure that Mike doesn't drive 2 hours down to me to do this recording for nothing, keeps me accountable and makes sure that I'm delivering what I'm supposed to be delivering.
And it's nice, vice versa, like I would not have gotten up at 8:00 this morning to drive here if you weren't holding me accountable to get here and do it. So it's, I guess that kind of sums up the accountability section, but I mean, like, it's nice to have someone holding you accountable, or your
yeah. And that's the thing. Some people are strong enough to do this for themselves.
Yeah.
And ultimately, whatever your goal is or whatever it is you're trying to pursue, I mean, it really is on you to do it. It's not up to your mom or your girlfriend.
Well, when I was learning the piano as a kid, it was up to my mom. It wasn't up to me.
Right. So, but
when middle school came around and I realized that chicks dug it, then I had a motivating force right there.
Yeah, you had a motivating force that went back to giving you your purpose.
Yes. My purpose was to
your purpose was to impress chicks with your piano skills. So, and then finally, sort of in this grand process, I think one thing that's really important to do is go back and reassess your situation. Maybe it's every day, maybe it's every week. It probably should be every day. But, go back and review the work you've done, steps you've taken towards, one of these little micro goals, and start working your way through it. Actually do a daily review or a daily, accounting of, how far did I get today on my project? And you'll find that this review will continue to reinforce those ideas and those things in your mind, and really keep you focused on your project.
Well, and for example, going back to the weight loss and to the eating healthy and stuff like that, after a while, when you start reviewing daily and paying attention to stuff, it doesn't become hard anymore. It becomes like a lifestyle change. It becomes, just part of your day-to-day routine. And once that's happened, now that you've changed your outlook on life and everything you're working on, move on to the next goal. Set another goal. Don't just, okay, I've accomplished what I want to do, and sit there and,
Well, yeah, I mean, like in my case, for example, we have a sort of recurring goal that's been going on 3 years now. But the concept began with, I want to do work in Spain. And, that was sort of the initial goal. That was our Lamborghini, was this idea of doing work in Spain. But in order to get there, there's a million little hurdles that we had to overcome. There's a lot of these little goals that we had to set, figure out taxes, figure out how to register a business in a foreign country, figure out how that works. How do we pay our employees? How do we make everything even work? It's a completely different system. And so for us, we had this laundry list of things, and, and we're still figuring out stuff, to be perfectly honest. I mean, we don't have it all figured out yet. The rules over there are strange and completely, well, literally also foreign.
Yep.
And so, but that's been something that we've been working really hard. And one facet of this was last summer, we hosted a conference for Spanish entrepreneurs interested in doing work in the United States. And it was called Ventana al Exterior. And the conference was in a city called Valladolid, in sort of western Spain. It's like an hour and a half north of Madrid. And we happen to have some partners there, and so that's the reason for that city versus somewhere else. So, but this project, is a big one. It's a big international undertaking.
Well, you had news representatives there. You had
we had
everybody.
It
was a big deal.
Yeah, we had the president of Castilla y León, which would be like a state governor. We had politicians and leaders from the national level all the way down to the city level. We had famous journalists and well-known people, and we had brought many people from the United States to come over and speak at this event. And it was a major feat of coordination. It was there was a lot to it.
Yeah.
And so, but if you just sit down and your goal is host conference in Spain, well, my God, how do you actually get that done?
Yeah.
And so we did. We broke this thing into a million little bits. From building the website, creating collateral materials, booking people, security regulations, getting a building, catering, every little piece and part. And luckily we were blessed. We have great partners on the Spanish side. So they were able to help with a lot of the sort of, physical requirements, getting a building, getting a permit, getting all that stuff figured out that would have been difficult to accomplish from the States. But, but it was a team effort. There were about 6 of us on our team that put this thing together. And including our 2 partners over in Spain, and ultimately, when it came to fruition, we had something we were all pretty proud of.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much I've gotten into it before, but my partner in Spain, her name's Anna. Anna, is from Spain. She's sort of grown up over there. And she's from there. She didn't just sort of grow up over there. She's native. And they have a different outlook on a lot of things. They sort of look at entrepreneurship a little bit different way. And not to say there aren't plenty of entrepreneurs over there, because there are. But in general, this concept of if you can dream it, you can do it, isn't as widely accepted over there as it is here in the States, for example. Over here, I think it's widely believed that,
well, it's the American dream.
Yeah, you can just about do anything it is you want to do. But over there, they live in a system that's been having some serious economic problems and, other issues in their country. And it's, not necessarily true that you could, in their mind, it's not necessarily true that they could actually accomplish anything it is they want. And, so at the time of our conference, we had been working over there for 2 years. And, still, I'm telling Anna, look, we're in Spain. We're doing work over here. Look, it's working. I told you it would work, and it's working. And, I could just see it in her face, like still just always kind of just shrugging it off. Like, yeah, I guess. I suppose you're right, but just like never really getting it. And I remember one of the big things that I noticed when she arrived in Valladolid and we both arrived at the conference center for this event, just like sort of the look on her face when it was sort of real.
When it clicked.
Yeah. And it sort of finally clicked for her that, it's real. He's been yapping at me all this time about all the different things we can accomplish and how we can, achieve whatever it is we say we can achieve. But look, it's right here. There's 350 companies that came from all of Western Spain to attend our conference. We've got these really important politicians, all these other people who have bought into this vision, and I think it was a real game changer for her.
Yeah. The biggest concert I ever did was Jimmy Eat World and Paramore at the Holt Arena at Idaho State University. And that's a whole...
Haley Williams, Paramore, by the way. Best pipes I've ever heard on any human
ever. And it's
ever.
a really fun show, too. They put on a great show.
Well, and it's amazing. I don't know what she actually is, but she's like 4'1". She's like a dwarf.
She's tiny.
She has got the most powerful pipes I've ever heard.
This was right when they were first getting popular on the radio, too.
She's amazing.
I was able to
Shout out Haley.
Yeah. Able to catch both them on the same tour. But... The lead up to making this event happen is a huge, long, drawn out story, and we don't have time for it. But I remember when the show actually started, like after we got all the ticketing done, we had the security prop nightmare. That you remember that? That was fun.
Yeah. We'll save that for another.
We won't even go into that. But
show.
When the show was actually going on, I remember, I didn't even watch it. I walked out into the hallway and I was just like.
I was, however, in the pit taking photos.
Yeah, so we got some photos, but I went back in and watched the second half of Jimmy Eat World's set. But the first little bit, I remember I was running around going crazy, getting everything, caterers, all this fun stuff figured out, and when it actually was going on, I just kind of sat back and was like, this is cool.
Yeah, well, it's that same moment that, that we had in Vito Lead, was that when it's finally over with, it's like sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I did that.
Yeah.
I accomplished that.
We got there. We
on
did
to the
it.
next thing.
Yep.
Here we go. And so anyway, we're starting to go a little long, so we better wind this down.
Sure.
I'm not putting a bow on it this time. So one thing I wanted to go back to, for anybody who's missed last week's episode, we sort of put out there this idea. We discussed a lot perceived value. And we had this concept of a perceived value experiment where we wanted to challenge our listeners to sort of evaluate their own worth, share their own success and failure stories, help other people in our community as our community develops to establish their own perceived value. And so we wanted to just kind of keep that going. Obviously, we're in our infancy as a show, so we're asking a lot of the however many
8
people who've actually listened to. It's more than 8.
Well, I know.
Give us some credit, man.
Okay, 10.
And so, but, we get it. We're reaching out to a small group of people. But, we're really, one of the sort of key tenets of the show is that we want to have this interaction with the listeners. Obviously we'll grow from you, and hopefully we're imparting something useful to you guys. And so as you think about it, as you go throughout your day, if you have any suggestions or recommendations, anything that you'd like to include or offer in our perceived value experiment, just shoot us an email at info@eggscast.com or hit us up on social media, whatever. With that, I want to just hit on a couple little plugs on the way out the door. A couple of the things Mike referenced during our podcast, and all this stuff will be available in the show notes. Lynda.com, great website to go to for tutorials on just about anything you want.
I use it pretty much on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's
anything
great.
You want to learn.
Yeah, it's great for creative. It's great for web development. It's great for presentations and PowerPoints and whatever it is you want to learn. You can get just about everything.
Even something as simple as like learning how to do Excel or, anything.
Yeah, they've got it all. It's really worth checking out if you can. Treehouse is another one he mentioned. Treehouse is a more like a web specific training tool. They've got a really fun platform. It's easy to use, easy to follow.
The thing that's nice about Treehouse is they require you to take a test at the end of each section. So until you pass the test, you can't move on. Well, you could, but it's motivation to actually learn the material.
It's back to that accountability thing, right? So also for the Eggs Book Club intro of the week, and we hadn't talked about doing one of these, but because I brought it up twice or 3 times during the show, we'll talk about The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Check it out on Amazon. Great book. We'll make sure there's a link to it in the show notes. And also, Mike here will talk a little bit more about this, but we've started up a Spotify playlist.
Yeah, so we kind of want to do something that we can interact with you guys with. So we're going to share a link to our Spotify playlist, and Ryan and I are going to put 10, 15 songs that we personally enjoy on the playlist so you can listen to music that we like. And then we would like you guys to send suggestions to add to the list. So,
yep, and same thing. Hit us up on social media. Eventually, we'll probably come up with a more sophisticated way of doing that. But for now, hit us up on social media. Send us an email. Again, everything will be in the show notes.
Yeah. So if you have a favorite song that speaks to you, tell us about it. And then if we both like it, we'll add it to the list.
Yeah, and these songs can be motivational tracks, things that inspire. The sorts of things that you might put on to when you go to the gym, or when you sit down to code, or when you sit down to actually design something,
or just something you enjoy.
Yeah. Any old thing will do. Yeah. So anyway, we just thought it might be a fun interaction to have with the community.
So along with that, on our website, we're gonna have the link where you can find it and listen to the Spotify playlist. But we're also gonna share some mixes that I enjoy or Ryan enjoys, or if you guys have one that a mix by a DJ that you like, we'll post that as well. And today I was talking about that high fidelity mix that I made and set a goal to learn Pro Tools. And it took me 8 months, but I made this high fidelity mix. I'm going to post that on the website. And I'm going to post the mixes that inspired
as well as a couple
me.
Of the inspirational tracks that led you to do it.
There were, there's 3 DJs that did one real similar to that I know of that I really enjoy. Victor Menego did one that's called Let's Go. And it's spelled Gaux, kind of
like his last
name. And that's a great mix. If you haven't heard it, check it out. DJ Cobra did one called Iller, and that was the one that I listened to that really was like, oh man, this is rad. I want to do this. So I'll post that link. And he also has another one called Ill and Air, and that's the follow-up to the first one.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, as you know, 50% of this podcast is a DJ, and so music is really important to him. Music has always been a big part of my life too. I mean, I used to tour manage bands and worked in the business for a long time. So we just thought that might be a fun thing that we could share with you guys, and hopefully you like it.
Yep.
With that, if you want to learn more about me or my company, R2 Media Group, I'm Ryan Rogar. R2 Media Group is the company. You can find it at r2mg.com, at R2MG on Twitter, or at R2 Media Group on Instagram.
For me, DJ Ontic, ONTIC, and it's just djontic.com, DJ Ontic at Twitter. And
finally, for the show, it's at Eggs Show on Twitter and Instagram. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll have a completed eggscast.com ready for you guys.
Yep.
So, and with that, have an awesome week, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.